Welcome to Disrupted Science, the occasional conversation between the authors of the forthcoming book, How the Internet Disrupted Science, now available for pre-order. I myself have pre-ordered it, and I'm looking forward to this as a main component of my summer reading. I'm Michael Magoulias, unabashed friend of the pod, taking over as host this week. I'm here with Kent Anderson and Joy Moore, and today is Wednesday, April 15th, 2026. Hey, Kent. Hey, Joy.
Hey, Michael.
How's it going? How are you guys doing?
Great, baby. We had our annual spring tornado
You had
warning.
a, oh,
Yes,
good.
I kind of
Yeah.
expected to maybe wake up in Munchkin land for breakfast, but
Yeah.
which would have made this difficult because the Wi-Fi there is awful. But anyway, we
Yeah. And so you're in the
Munchkin Land doesn't have good Wi-Fi?
no, no,
Oh, that's why Dorothy was
no,
trapped there. Yeah, she was on like
no.
3G.
yeah.
Tough.
Well, that's the beauty of Illinois. I'm in Virginia where we're supposed to hit 96 degrees today. And I took the dogs out for a walk early and people were already complaining as if we don't know that that's what happens here.
Right, right, in the swamplands of Virginia.
Right.
Yeah.
Where everybody died at Jamestown, and now we're going to a concert there on the weekend.
Well, that sounds like fun. You're really selling that one.
No, so the
Who's
concert
the
is,
concert?
well, it's
Mm.
well, it's a two-night show, and it's in honor of the 250th anniversary of Virginia.
Mm.
So Friday night is the Plain White Tees,
Oh, nice.
who had, as far as I know, one song. But
Hmm.
Saturday night is Kool and the Gang.
Very
And
nice.
apparently Kool and the Gang are still a thing.
They're still
So,
cool and still a
and they're
gang.
going to celebrate good times for the 250th anniversary of Virginia. So
That'll be fantastic. That'll be super
I'm
fun.
looking
There'll be a
forward
lot
to
of
that.
lot
Yeah.
of sparkles in the on stage, I'm sure,
Yeah.
and
And,
dance
and for
moves.
23 whole dollars, I can do that. Yeah.
Well, very nice. Well, so in observance of Tax Day in America, which it is April 15th, we decided to not talk about anything important or stressful because it doesn't help anybody. So we phoned Michael, a friend of ours, to interview us about us.
Mhm.
Excellent. So let's kick this off. I want to start with some points of procedure. So I'm going to ask a series of questions, and you'll take turns answering. And we're going to begin in alphabetical order based on last names.
Okay.
This means Kent, with the enviable A surname, gets to go first. Okay, so are you ready?
We're ready.
We're
All right.
ready.
So, how did you actually get your career in scholarly publishing to start?
Yeah, I like a lot of people, I came in through the side door. So I was in technical writing and editing and graphic design, and then got married, moved to Atlanta, got a job as a second shift typesetter to make ends meet for a while, and then landed a job as a managing editor over, I think at the time it was 14 clinical medicine publications in the Division of Medical Economics, and started editing and growing that product line. And then this was back before the internet jobs thing was a big deal. And so I told my wife when I started to get words added to my title, but not money in my pocket, I was like, I think I've capped out here, so I need to move on. And I hear there's a lot of medical societies in Chicago. So she had a friend in Chicago who FedExed down a Chicago Tribune Sunday edition for like $60. It cost her to do that. And there was a job for a managing editor at the American Academy of Pediatrics. So we happened to be going up to visit in-laws in Ohio and took an interview and got the job, and the rest is history. And it's a field I had no idea actually existed, but there it was, and I'm kind of glad I found it. That was me.
Fantastic. Okay, Joy.
My story is quite similar. I got my first job in scholarly publishing because I responded to a newspaper ad for an editorial assistant in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. in 1995. I did not understand the job that was being advertised. I was an English major. I ended up in Chapel Hill with my husband, who was going to grad school. Duke University Press was not looking for anybody to help them find the next great novel. And so this is, what I came across. Um, and so I didn't know what I was getting into. And it turned out to be a really, really great job for somebody like me at the time. I thought I wanted to be a lawyer as an English major. And then halfway through, college, I was like, that's boring. I don't want to do that. And this turned out to be kind of the right challenge for my brain and my skills. So when I got the job, I didn't even know what a biomedical journal was. I'd never seen one. It wasn't part of my curriculum. And as part of the interview, he said, "There's that closet over there is full of unopened FedEx packages that are full of figures, reviews, and returned manuscripts." And when he said figures, I thought he meant numbers. I didn't know even what that meant.
They were images.
Yeah. So I at the same time that he was in a pinch, they were transitioning from because it was a society-owned journal, and they were transitioning from Elsevier to Blackwell Science. And so I was very fortunate enough to have been trained up by two production editors, one from Elsevier and one from Blackwell Science, who are like, "Hey, lady or girl, you got to get with the program." And so they taught me how to do what I needed to do as a editorial assistant and then managing editor. So I'm really fortunate to have had that experience with those particular people at that time.
Excellent. I remember there was a period in the late 90s, early 2000s when I would talk to people in publishing about this question, and they'd always say that they just fell into it. Like it was some kind of sinkhole that just suddenly materialized on their path. Maybe it was, professional tennis or being a veterinarian, but no, this
Yeah.
just fell into publishing. Um, I I always thought that there was a bit of intentionality, at least in my case. I thought, okay, yes, I also thought about, you know, maybe all I can do now is become a lawyer after my humanities degree. But
Hmm.
yeah, I was very fortunate to find that that this world existed.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
So let me ask. So from those salad days, what really stands out as a particularly tasty crouton?
Is this for me again?
Yes,
Yep.
starting with
Okay.
yes.
All right. So I'm just trying to straighten out the rules of the road here. So, yeah, I think to Joy's point, it was the early part. I came in around 1996. So I had already launched a product on the commercial web when Mosaic was the browser, even before Netscape. And it actually was a successful launch too, which was kind of fascinating. So I came in right as scientific and scholarly publishing and medical publishing, and more importantly, was moving online. And it was just really exciting. I mean, everybody seemed aligned. Everybody seemed like they were going to pull in the same direction. You were learning all the time, whether it was about, technology or trying to, you were inventing all the time too. You had to invent, how do you paginate e-pages? How do you design interfaces? How do you represent journal content online? What are the rules there? And so it was a great way to learn about, excuse me, learn about the field and master it in a new way while also inventing what was going to be the baseline going forward. But the biggest thing I remember that just enjoying so much is everybody seemed to be excited and on the same page.
Okay, how about you, Joy? Favorite early memory?
Uh, Definitely on the same lines. I turned out to be okay enough at my job in Chapel Hill that I was I was sent over to Switzerland to work for the next editor of the journal. And when we got there, we found out that FedExing and even faxing manuscripts and reviews was going to break the bank for the society who owned it, who was based in Ohio. And so my favorite memory was, I was, a fish out of water in a country where I didn't even really speak the language. But I connected with an IT guy at the University of Geneva, and we figured out how to use an access database and some HTML and front page to create an online peer review system, just out of necessity, but also out of creativity. As Kent said, there were new options. There were different ways to solve problems, and so that was really fun. It was, you know, we didn't know if it was going to work, but our little community for our journal took to it. And I was fortunate enough to get some people on board in Geneva. And, one of my good friends to this day, we would spend, days and nights scanning images and converting, papers to HTML in order to meet the deadlines. And so that's one of the things that it's one of my fondest memories of something that was creative, new, taking advantage of different resources and solving a problem in a meaningful business way, meaning that the society should not have sent the journal to Switzerland if they couldn't pay for it. And I helped them figure out how to do that.
That, that's great. Listening to these answers really reminds me of that classic scholarly kitchen post Kent had done a while back. I think two iterations. I think of it as the
Yeah, two or
101
three,
things.
right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
The 101 things that publishers do that
Right.
right. And I think there's a highly abstract set of assumptions about what publishing is.
Hmm.
And what isn't fully appreciated, I think, is just the extent to which there are lots of practical problems with costs associated with them that
Yeah.
throughout the whole history of our changes in formatting and transmission, that they always have to be solved one way or another.
Hmm.
And I still think there's a lot of educational need to explain that to people on the outside.
Yeah, I remember I wrote a post a while ago, I'll have to dig it up, where it was basically, can you just respect the jobs that people are doing instead of always trying to denigrate them? Because you don't know what it's like to do that job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the day to day, everybody's trying to make it look graceful and regal and noble and fine, but you don't know what it's that they're putting out fires left, right, and center and dealing with all sorts of, grumpy people and transgressive people and all, you don't know what it's like to actually do that job. And so just stick to your knitting and let everyone else do
Hmm.
their stuff. So,
I think that line, publishing is just pushing a button now.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
That was
Well,
extremely destructive.
yeah,
yeah, nobody's who has ever worked in the trenches would agree with that phrase. You can put something online, but do you want to stand behind it? And how did you get there? And what's going to happen after you push that button? You
right.
know?
And all the vendors you have to manage and all the budgets you have to manage and all the people up and down the supply chain and hierarchy at the organization you have to deal with. So yeah, it's work, right? So
Hmm.
respect the work.
So I wanted to dig a little bit deeper now and ask about particular moments in your career trajectories. So, Ken, maybe not a lot of people know that you pursued an MBA.
I,
So tell us about that decision.
yeah, so I did, and I got it. That was good.
Yeah.
But there was a point where I was getting more and more responsibility. I was being asked to budget and make strategic decisions, and I was doing it through instinct and a lot of on-the-job training. But I'm an English major with a sociology minor and partially journalism, almost double major. So I didn't have business training, and I felt that I owed it to everybody to get that, just so I could understand formally what I was really doing and what the theoretical and left-right, associations were to the actions and decisions I was making. So I found a program. The American Academy of Pediatrics, where I worked at the time, was generous enough to foot the bill, and it was a good thing to do. I learned that it definitely enhanced my viability on the job market, but it also made it so I was more facile with business concepts that I would need going forward. And so it was a good thing to do. But as an English major, of course, I was the college kid who had the no condo, no MBA, no BMW T-shirt walking around campus. So when people and I worked in the midst of a whole bunch of people like that. So when they heard I was getting an MBA, you could just feel this vibe change where it's like, oh, he's going to be one of them,
Sell out.
And sell out, and he's going to become a business jerk and all this kind of stuff. And I remember just my rationale was even the sheriff needs to learn how to handle a gun. So that's why I'm doing it.
So in your final big project, did you do a publishing related?
Yeah, actually, that's funny that you mentioned that, because we won the award for the school's project because we saved the academy, I think, $300,000 a year with our project. But what it was had to do with postal delivery. So
my favorite.
Yeah, I know. I love logistics. And so what was going on was I customer service reported up to me at the time, and they would get all these issues back with yellow labels, address change labels on them, and then they'd have to manually put in.
The ACRs.
Yeah, but they didn't have ACR in place.
Oh.
So anyhow, and so all these would come back, and it was all this wastage and overprinting and charges to the returns to do the returns, and then it would take because they would overlap because of latency in the system. It would take 3 to 4 issues before the address change would be corrected manually with this kind of back and forth in the postal system. And so we got the ACR, the automated address change system that the Postal Service does a beautiful job with. And we hooked up a modem, and we got the address changes daily. And pretty soon what used to be piles and piles and those postal baskets of journals went down to like nothing. And everybody ended to save like $300,000 a year. So yeah, it was a really big win.
That's awesome. I can totally relate because one of my jobs when I was still in college was working for the Alumni Association in the records office. So my job was to manually type in all those yellow labels. And that's how I got to be a very fast typer and understand. I know every zip code and state code and things like that. But yeah, that was a huge part of efficiency in terms of managing subscriptions is when something gets sent back through the post office. What do you do with it? How do you follow up? Then we had people like calling us like, where does this person live? I'm like, it's none of your business. But
right. But Michael, to your point, it's also, this is the kind of thing that, as we migrated from print to online predominantly, this is the kind of back office stuff that nobody understood needed to go on or could even go on. Right. And, like what do publishers do? Well, they straighten out your postal delivery, and they keep your address straight, and they keep your records straight so that you get what you need, and you can log in and you can access, and everything seems seamless to you. And there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes with that. But this was a 4-month-long project, and you have to manage all the people and all their jobs, and am I going to lose my job if these yellow labels aren't coming in anymore, and all that kind of stuff. So
right. But I think there's a false thinking that simply, our current technological world has made problems like that disappear, but in fact, they've just changed. So we're now, right? There are other things we worry about, like keeping track of affiliations or even names of authors.
Right.
Yeah,
or being hacked.
The data standards have have always been there for the people who have been in the trenches working with them, and they've just changed over time, and there are different ways of keeping track of them.
Right. And that is a very nice segue for my next question for you, Joy. So I know that you were an early transplant from the kind of editorial type world to the tech platform world.
Mhm.
Tell us how did that transition happen?
Super duper by, you know, stumbling over my own shoelaces into something that I had helped to figure out. So I turned out I was good enough at my job in Geneva to get some attention about our little bootstrap project. And I was invited to the Council of Science Editors meeting in Salt Lake City in 1996, 7. I can't say. I remember at the time my boss was like, "You're so young, you should wear roller skates." And I was very young, but I did not wear roller skates. But I did get to meet some amazing people from the CSE community, from JAMA, from the vendors, from, across that whole ecosystem. And from that, I was introduced to Bill Carden and Joe Jennings and Taylor Bowen, who at the time were Carden Jennings. And they had also been working on how do we put manuscript processing online. And so they kind of conscripted me as being their kind of product development partner. I went to work for Blackwell Science in Boston shortly thereafter, and we put our heads together. And so I helped them figure out, like, how do you take a good idea and scale it for multiple people? Different workflows, different organizations, and things like that. So that was like very early days of platform configuration for a process-oriented tool. Um, and as a result, I did the first, I think, big site license deal or enterprise license deal between Blackwell Science and Scholar One to take it globally. And from there, I got to fly around the world and try to convince people in Oxford and Cambridge and, you know, France and, all these places that this is a good idea. It's okay to put your manuscripts online. So it took a lot of trial and error. But ultimately, it made sense for the P&Ls for both the vendor and the publisher, and then it kind of took on from there. And so that is all to say, it kind of set me up as a bit of a whisper between tech and publishing, and because I knew enough about both, but not too much on either side to be too critical or biased, but also, having empathy for the users. And so from then on, I started to get into using different tech platforms and vendors to do more creative things, hopefully in pursuit of the publishing goals.
That's fascinating. It makes me think that there are these times of transition where it's almost like the Renaissance in a field, and things are totally open, and there aren't any closed pathways. So you can be someone who is a product manager and maybe doing sales as well,
Mm-hmm.
because the fundamental understanding is the audience, the customers, what they need, and things haven't been closed off. Yeah, that's
Yeah, in
yeah,
retrospect, that was before we were using terms like product manager
yeah,
in
yeah.
publishing, and the salespeople were the ones who were selling subscriptions and advertising. I was selling tech as a product, kind of in an integrated way that is now common practice. But at the time, there wasn't any, word for it, really.
Right, right. Yeah, the job before the jobs even existed. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, really interesting. So I don't know if we've touched on some of this already, but if you were to name a particular past accomplishment that really you're most proud of, what would you? Oh, I guess we should get back to Kent. What would you say that is, Kent?
I think that doing just be every time I built something that users loved was just felt great. And I got to do that a few times. So I remember we first put video into the pediatric journal, and we had this great partner out at OHSU who had these techniques where they could shoot videos of, a punctured eardrum or, an ear infection and things like that. They could get into places that doctors didn't normally see. And one of the pediatricians who, was a great clinician and everybody respected him, he saw the video and he's like, I've done that a million times. I've never seen what it actually looks like.
Mm.
And I thought that was amazing, and the uptake was great. But I think that every time that I launched, went through all the product development steps that are logical and all the testing that makes sense, and then you go and you launch it, and everything is pointing green, and then to have it pay off and actually hit like you expect it to, that's such a thrill. And I've been lucky enough to do that a half dozen to a dozen times probably, and every time, and even I've launched things and left them, or I've gotten them approved and then left, and then 2 or 3 years later I'll hear back from the people and they're like, oh my gosh, it's selling like hotcakes. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. So that kind of stuff, moving things forward and helping organizations find new paths to grow and succeed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like the phrase launching something and hearing that people loved it. That's not a very common experience, especially, hearing them tell you directly, this is great, I loved it. Yes, so Joy, your most important accomplishment so far, because there are going to be more.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I I'm so proud of having had the privilege of working with so many societies over the years, from the first people who hired this dumb girl in Chapel Hill to all the publishers and platform providers that I've worked with. Um, Working with scholarly societies, scientific societies is really what I've enjoyed doing the most, because it means that every time you meet them, you need to understand the community, you need to understand the people. You also need to understand what the organization is about, what they're trying to achieve, and um, the process of publishing and the business of publishing is an opportunity to give these communities monetary and intellectual capital to support the next generation of community members, society members. And so I think that's what I'm most proud of. I haven't worked directly with societies in a couple of years, but it's something that I'm hoping to get back to, and it's really kind of where I came from and what I'm grounded in. I'm certainly, you know, interested in making sure that the biggest commercial publishers are able to support some of the society members, but you know, my heart is with the societies first.
Yeah, that's where the rubber meets the road. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. I feel when I was working with societies, it's just great to be accountable to really smart people who have just the right balance between, instrumental values and intrinsic values.
Hmm.
Um, you know, they really have that right, I think. And
I mean, to be sure, let me add to that is that there working with societies is always messy, because the people that you're working with, this is not their day job. Their day job is to be a pediatrician or a biochemist or, what have you. And they are devoting their extracurricular time to supporting their organization. So in a way, it's like herding cats, and it's challenging. But when you can get to a point where you can get the right balance between using these experts for their community in a way that is going to support their community and return some value to make their lives easier, then that's really satisfying.
So I want to talk a little bit about the book, since that's incredibly exciting and really looking forward to it. And I just want to hear your thoughts, like what's most exciting for you about the potential once the launch starts taking place.
Oh, it's the money, purely the money.
Yeah, we're going to be
Yeah.
so rich, so very rich.
Yeah.
I got so many plans for my book money. I think I might get a new pair of shoes. It's going to be
I know.
awesome.
I know. Yeah. I,
Maybe two.
definitely shoes. I mean, at least one more car payment would be cool. Yeah.
And,
Yeah, no, I'm
Sydney
kidding.
Sydney Sweeney is interested, right?
Hmm.
In the
Yeah, yeah,
movie.
she's going
It's
to play me. It's going to be awesome. But
okay. Yeah.
yeah, no, I seriously, the reason we went into this is we felt that the message about a lot of the things that had kind of gone sideways in scientific publishing and were going sideways in science because of it. And the scientific record and science have a very interesting relationship, which I would, reflect as if a tree falls in the woods and it doesn't make a sound, does anybody hear it? The scientific record is the sound, right? And so it has to exist as a complement to scientific claims. And so, but there've been a lot of problems, but nobody outside of our space really has registered them. And so we keep hearing people saying, well, it was in a peer-reviewed journal and blah 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 blah. I'm like, it's not the same thing as you think it is. So my hope is that it changes the conversation, that people start having different conversations. We are forced to have conversations that are different as well, because ultimately, like Joy said, serving the scientific community is the goal and not exploiting it. So I think that's my hope, is that we can get back to doing something very special and very important and not be blinded by incentives that are kind of eroding that very significant role. And actually, it's a role that's more important than ever when you think about how information travels these days. I was just watching the video where that fake disease was introduced by a social media post and two fake preprints, and it was made
What
its
was it
way
called?
into
Bioxima or something?
I forget. It's
Bixomania.
such a nonsense name. And then the authors are like from Starfleet Academy and all this stuff. It's fantastic. It's another one of the stings, right? But now we're stinging AIs and chatbots, because we have to because the information flows are quick and careless. And so I think that puts a role of people at the headwaters filtering that system. It makes that role all the more important. So I'm kind of hoping we serious up a little bit after more and more people realize what's been going on.
How about you, Joy?
I'm on the same page with Kent. So I love the a behind the music documentary that gives you the backstory of how something came to be played on the radio, or what's happening. And I think we attempted to do that in the book, and I think we did a pretty good job. But it's bridging the from inside baseball to what's actually happening in the world. And so what I'm hoping with the book is that people in media, in tech, and in publishing, but also the public who never knew or cared about STM publishing, because why would you? It's, will find the story compelling enough to maybe change some of their voting habits, stand up for science, not use terrible tech, pay more attention to where you're getting your information, and things like that. And at the same time, I'm hoping that researchers who are putting their intellectual capital into this publishing ecosystem will understand how their work is being used for good or for bad, and hopefully make some different choices. And then, long shot is maybe some of the powers that be and the top of the STM publishing ecosystem might make some different choices. But
Hmm.
but
I
but our primary audience is not the publishers,
Right,
it's the people. So,
right. Well, I think you and I have talked about there's a missing piece of the puzzle, and this book is kind of that missing piece, right? Nobody has talked about scientific communications and scientific information in quite the way that we have tried to do. And it kind of locks in a lot of things about why are all the tech moguls attacking science? Where did Maha come from?
mhm.
Why is scale being pursued so much? And the other thing we tried to do, and I remember we had multiple conversations about this while we were writing the book, was we could have gone down so many different paths to elaborate on things that have been elaborated far better by other people. And we tried to keep it very strictly about this one story, right, that is unique. So it's like, are we saying something unique here? So I guess my bigger hope for the book as an artifact is that it'll become a touchstone where people are like, that's where the story exists.
Yeah, I've noticed there's a real tendency when people are trying to tell the story historically, um, to think of it very linearly in print terms. There's Gutenberg, and then the transactions, and
Yeah.
very much the history of print, but not really getting into how publishing really became changed by electronic communications, and you know, which is a very
Yeah.
different animal. And that's the
We
role. Yeah.
Well, we certainly, to be sure, we are not exhaustive. We did not
Mhm.
go down through every single, rabbit hole over the last 30 years. We just try to capture themes and processes that have led us from there to here in a way that hopefully would be engaging through the way we've told it through stories.
Yep.
Just let me ask you this out of curiosity. As journal people, did you find the process of working with a book publisher eye-opening, surprising in any ways? Uh, was it kind of what you expected?
Yes, all of the above.
Mhm.
I think
I
it
and
was
I and I actually I have been a book publisher,
Oh,
right. Same
but
here.
in academia, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the big switch for us was when we realized this is not going to be an academic book, it was going to be a trade book. And so working
But you
with a
remember
publisher.
we used to say now we're on the other side of the table. So this is what it feels like when the publisher is quiet for 2 weeks, or when
Yeah.
you don't know, when all of a sudden something appears and you have to react to it quickly. It's kind of grounding to be on the other side of the table and say, oh, okay, yeah, this I've been on that side of the table, now I'm on this side of the table. That's okay.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, we get it. And hopefully we haven't been too annoying publishers. Hmm.
uh, I think now we're on to the Colbert Questionnaire portion of the episode.
yes, let's do
Yes.
it.
Okay, so best sandwich.
So my best sandwich is what I call Phil's pastrami and provolone. And so when I was in college, I worked at a Round Table Pizza, and the manager was this Portuguese guy named Phil with a bushy mustache and tons of energy. And one day you got a meal if you worked a full 8-hour shift. And I was working a Saturday, I think, or something. And it was my turn to make a meal. He's like, "Ah, I got something for you." So he gets a hoagie roll, opens it up, pastrami, provolone into the pizza oven, comes out hot, toasted on the other side. And he said, "Don't put anything on it. It's perfect as it is." And he was right. It was the best sandwich I've ever had. And every time I get a chance to make something like it, I do. So that's my best sandwich.
Hmm.
That
What?
sounds awesome. I love all sandwiches. But
Equally.
yeah, put it between bread. I like all food, but I'm gonna say a palmetto cheese
Mm.
with Duke's mayo on white bread on a pontoon boat in the summer in South Carolina is my favorite sandwich. And
Oh,
so palmetto cheese is not the same as pimento cheese. It's very specific. And the combination of that with Duke's mayo on white bread on a hot day when it's cold is the best thing you can eat.
nice. That was a whole experience.
That's a whole novel. Sydney Sweeney can play that one.
Okay.
Okay,
Oh,
so
you also have to be listening to Yacht Rock while you eat it. That was
Okay.
my other point. Yeah.
okay, well, which is a very good way of getting to the next question. And I'm sure, as many people know, Kent is also an accomplished rock and roller. So,
Yeah.
first, what was your first concert?
My first concert was Rush in 1981, and the tickets were $14. And I got one of the baseball tees with the Moving Pictures logo on the front because that was the album. And I was, I think, fifth row because we went down, to stand in line early on the Saturday morning. Tickets went on sale, and it was fantastic. And I've been a Rush fan ever since. I was before then, actually. And that was my first concert at the Salt Palace in Salt Lake City, Utah, Joy, where you went to the CSE meeting. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Excellent. I have to ask this. I grew up outside of Detroit, and so was able to watch a lot of Canadian television,
Mm,
including the comedy show SCTV.
hmm
And there was a skit that Rush ended up making a song about called The Great
hmm
White North.
hmm
Is that, yes, I imagine you know that, but I don't know how well known that is within the discography of the average.
Well, Michael, I will not try to imitate Getty's very high voice at the time when he was in his prime, but I will also divulge that as Bob and Doug McKenzie, my good friend at the time, Steve Jensen, and I asked two girls out as Bob and Doug McKenzie to prom, and they both said yes. So
Oh,
take
good.
off, hoser,
Take off hosers.
Beauty, beauty.
beauty, eh?
Okay. All right, how about your first concert, Joy?
So my first concert was Echo and the Bunnymen at Constitution Hall in Washington, D.C. And I had to Google it to make sure that I got my dates right, but it was February 1988. And according to the internet, fans noted that February 1988 show was memorable due to extremely cold weather, which I also remember because my friends' parents had to drop us off and pick us up because we were like 15 years old. But it was amazing. It was the first we were like diehard fans, and to be able to go see them in person was amazing, and it made us feel like grown-ups. And then we've been the coolest two people ever since.
I'm very envious, and yeah, you're both so much cooler than I, because my first concert at the age of 11 was going with my parents to see Barry Manilow during the Copacabana tour.
No, there is
Nice.
So,
nothing not cool about that. You need
No,
to
that
own
that
that.
I feel like totally dunked on now.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Not only Barry Manilow, Copacabana, but 11. I mean, come
yeah,
on.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
it was a spectacle. Okay, so
Just so you know, I maybe can't, and but also me, I had to take myself to my first concert. My
Hmm
parents didn't do that for me. So
oh,
you
okay,
should,
Yeah.
you know, you should
yeah,
appreciate that.
okay. All right, so scariest animal.
If it counts, and I'm hoping it does because of animalcules and all that kind of history to it, but I think that viruses.
Yes.
Well,
Sorry.
way
I
to be
mean, look at
smart. Yeah.
I mean, just
Yeah,
looking
you don't
back
want to
over,
you
looking
don't
back
want to pick.
over my life, it's like from swine flu to AIDS to HIV, I should say, because that's the virus, to SARS to H1N1 to COVID. They're just little nasty critters.
Okay.
You're
But
absolutely right.
you don't have a particular virus that's
No, just the fact that
Dr.
they're
Evil.
out
No.
what the next
Yeah.
one,
Yeah.
Yes. The next
whatever
one.
whatever they have in store next is already
Yes.
got me itching.
Okay, Joy.
Um, I'm afraid of kangaroos.
Oh.
That is the scariest animal for me. Have
Have
you
you
ever
ever had a
seen?
close encounter?
I have. They're not good. They're super creepy. Um, we were raised to think that they were adorable, like from like Kanga and Roo and
Right,
Winnie the Pooh.
right.
No, they're 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 very smelly, and the way they sit on their tails and use their feet and ugh, no, I never want to see another kangaroo in person again. So
Okay.
that's my answer.
Well, all right. So let's
I
move
love
on
it,
to
by the way.
fruits.
That's
Yeah, yeah,
fantastic.
yeah. Actually, do you remember there was a child's kind of toy, an inflatable,
Oh, don't
like
traumatize her now, Michael.
I know. Yeah.
um, I had it. It was like an inflatable oval kangaroo body with the ears that you would jump on and you hold on to the
Yes.
ears.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Trying to normalize kangaroos.
You know
It's
what? Kangaroos should
she's been fighting
stay.
big kangaroo her whole life.
No, they just need to stay in their habitat and I need to stay in mine. I don't have anything against them. I just eh,
Want to encounter them in
don't want
traffic.
to, yeah.
They're also terrible drivers.
Okay. Well, now one of the big questions is apples or oranges?
This one's easy for me. Apples. I have one a day with sunflower butter drizzled over the slices, and
Mhm.
that's my morning snack. So, and oranges are too hard to peel and too uneven in quality. You don't, from a flavor and texture standpoint, you don't quite know what's going to happen once you peel that skin off.
So I'm
Okay.
with you on that. I'm also an apples over oranges person. Although I do like oranges, I only like them when I'm able to fillet them with a knife. I don't like touching
Mm.
them. I don't like getting their juice on me, so I need to use a knife to cut off the peel and take out the icky stuff, and that's just a whole thing. So uh apples don't require as many napkins, so I'll vote for that.
I appreciate the practical thought that went into both of those answers. Yes, I can tell the logistical background in the early days of publishing
Yeah, yeah.
is there. So now, have you ever asked someone for their autograph?
Yes. Both times a book author. So I have, the first time I asked somebody, it was Richard Preston, who wrote the book The Hot Zone,
Mm,
and about Ebola and the CDC containment
back to your
areas and all
virus.
that. And back to my virus thing. So that. But he was doing a book signing down in Atlanta when I lived there I think there was a big B. Dalton around from where I worked around the corner. And I was working on a publication called Travel Medicine Advisor at the time. So I knew all about botfly boils and things that would swim up your urethra and all sorts of crazy jungle critters and everything. And so
Oh,
I bought the book and took it in, and yeah, it happens. So yeah, make sure the water's going from behind you, not into your body. If you're in the Amazon, yeah, just word to the wise. But anyhow, so he and I had a nice long conversation. A super nice guy, and I have a signed book. And then I also, at that same bookstore, bought a first edition Wicked on their recommendation. And then Gregory Maguire is a Massachusetts native, and he was up at our local bookstore doing a signing. And my family, because I was traveling at the time, they took that first edition to get him to sign it. So I have that signed as well. So two books, two signatures.
Joy.
Well, my autograph days go a lot farther back. So when I was in elementary school, I had a Garfield autograph book, where we got friends and other people to sign, like in like second grade, third grade kind of thing. But I also happened to live in Tampa, Florida at that time, and there's a baseball player who was a rookie, and his mother lived in our neighborhood, and that was Wade Boggs. A-
What?
And he played pickup basketball with my dad in our
What?
driveway.
What?
Yep. hmm And
My gosh, that's unbelievable. That's fantastic. I did not know that. That's so cool.
so I have his autograph in my Garfield autograph book. And I also got
And
to be,
memories of him playing pickup basketball with your dad.
yeah, they went at it. It was great. Yeah. My dad was a
That is
Marine.
so cool.
He was a rookie baseball player, and we've, followed him ever since, and Red Sox, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
Um,
wow.
but yeah, I was also friends with his niece, and the next summer we found Wade Boggs' stash of Playboys in his closet, and we looked at them. So that was also weird.
Wow, this story has layers.
So
That's
yeah,
that's a
that's
great
that's cool.
autograph story. I'm dying to ask if he had a type, but who knows from the Playboys that he
No,
kept.
no, he just had magazines in the closet, and we were two little
Okay.
girls who were going like, "What's this?"
Giggling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's funny.
it's for the articles.
Right.
Those great interviews. Yeah.
Yes. So now here's the kind of question that starts family feuds during the holidays.
Mm.
Favorite action movie?
Oh, Die Hard. Watch it
See,
every
I was
Christmas.
I was in a feud, and someone said no, it's a Christmas movie. So
It
anyway,
is, and it's an action movie.
okay.
Usually it's the Christmas action movie. Yeah, but when you have, yeah, to me it's, and I'm a big action movie fan, and I love Aliens, and I love Predator, and I love John Wick, and a good action movie that keeps you on the edge of your seat, I'll take all day long. But Die Hard just, the swearing's better, the action's better, the special effects are still amazing, the explosions and the story, and then you've got Alan Rickman just totally
Mhm.
crushing it and his debut villain role. I mean, yeah, what's not to love? A little
Mhm.
Beethoven here and there. So yeah.
Um, it doesn't quite match, I think, just for energy, the film My Dinner with Andre. But yes, I can. The,
Well, my favorite
well,
action movie that I can watch over and over, is The Bourne Identity.
Mm.
And any of the Bourne movies, they're on a different level. I understand there's not as much, you know, you know, pyrotechnics and murdered people, but
No,
those are
they
my
had
they're
follow
my
cam down
they're
like
my
crazy
happy
with those.
place. Yeah. And there's not even any dialogue. You don't even need to really pay attention to what's happening, you know. You
No,
just
that's a
need
good
to
choice.
watch them. And
Yeah. And watch Matt Damon be like just intense.
Mhm.
Yeah. Good choice.
good. Okay. Now we have a couple olfactory questions. So,
Okay.
favorite smell?
Favorite smell, this will give away a later answer, is the top of one of my dog's heads, whatever. Just to like lean in, scratch their ears, sniff their head. My favorite smell.
Okay. Joy?
That's a good one. I was also thinking about like, yeah, like babies' heads, like freshly washed baby that you love. But I guess in general it's probably lavender, you know, lavender baby shampoo on a baby that you love. That's it. That's good.
Get it all.
Okay. Now the The least favorites. Always,
Um,
always
Grease
a danger.
traps. Grease traps. I used to have to clean out grease traps
Oh, yeah, that's so nasty.
when I worked at the pizza place. We
It
used to
makes you
have,
never want to eat.
yeah, yeah. So that would be my least favorite smell because it definitely left a mark after a few exposures. So,
Well, mine is on the same kind of theme, in terms of greasy and nasty. Is my least favorite smell is skunk poop on a golden retriever.
it's oddly specific, Joy.
It is very specific, and it is it's the grossest thing ever. Because
Apologies to all the listeners for that.
I don't mind the smell of skunk, and I
Mm.
don't mind the smell of golden retriever, but the combination of skunk poop on a golden retriever is a special kind of nasty. So
Ugh,
I don't
all right.
recommend it.
Wow. Okay, I'm glad I can't relate to that.
Good.
Same here.
Just skunk is bad enough. Okay, but we're sticking with animals. Another source of conflict for many people: cats or dogs.
Easy for me, dogs. I'm allergic to cats, even though I like them. I'm able to be around. I can't be around one long enough to love it. And then I've had dogs ever since I was tiny, and they're just a permanent part of life. So, and I love them. They're so goofy and fun.
Definitely dogs, and cats can also be a permanent part of life that I can deal with.
Okay, good. Good. Okay, here's one that's always a poser. You get to listen to one song only for the rest of your life. What song is it?
That one's actually one I've given a lot of thought to because I've watched enough Colbert Questionnaires. I'm like, what would my answer be? And my answer would be While My Guitar Gently Weeps, the version of it performed by Tom Petty, Jeff Lynne, and Prince at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with Prince's solo out. And if I had to drop the needle 3 times a day on that, I'd be perfectly happy.
You'd be fine.
Yeah.
That's a
Prince,
good one.
Prince was incredible on that. Yeah.
That's very specific, and I appreciate that. I have a lot of them, and they change, on a regular basis. But I was thinking about it as for today, I'm going to say Rocket Queen by Guns N' Roses from Appetite for Destruction
Hmm.
because it's a two-parter, and I'm a big fan of the two-parter rock anthem. So if you're stuck with one song and you got two, you can rock out and then you
She
can chill
found a
out.
loophole. You should have been a lawyer.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
it's got a little bit of everything. There are a few others in my canon, but that's my yeah. If I'm gonna be stuck with one song, it needs to have two parts. So Rocket Queen.
You are full of surprises, Joy Moore. I would not have guessed that. Okay, what number am I thinking of?
42.
Nope.
7.
Yes.
Oh,
Dang
Yes.
it!
you
I'm
guys
always right.
arranged this.
No, we
Uh,
did not. We did not. Because 7 is the best number.
yeah. Wow.
Nice. Well,
Okay. I got goosebumps now. Um, okay. Sum up the rest of your lives in 5 words.
oh boy. I hope I can contribute.
That's
Okay.
good. Yep. Mine is on the same thing. Help, then to the beach.
Very nice.
Great.
That's
I
awesome.
yes. I'll for you, I will say for both they lived happily ever after.
Yeah. I hope we will. In the meantime, it's a great privilege to be able to do what we're doing these days. You know, not many people get to do it, and we do appreciate it. So, and thank you for, joining us for this
It's my
conversation.
pleasure. I
Yeah.
mean, I always learn from you, and
Now you're going to
even,
go listen to some Guns N' Roses, but first
I'm
we have
going,
to
yeah,
go to
yeah.
on to our discoveries of the week. So why don't we see what we
Discoveries.
discovered this
Okay.
week?
Yes. Okay. So, Kent, would you like to kick us off?
I can, sure. So what I discovered this week is cocaine hippos.
Mm,
You didn't see that one coming, did you?
yeah.
So I guess Pablo Escobar introduced 4 hippos into his estate in Colombia in 1981. And he was captured and killed in 1993, but they escaped. The hippos escaped. And they have been breeding in the wild ever since. And the head count is there are at least currently 169 what they're calling cocaine hippos. And they can't capture and sterilize them fast enough. So they have come to the conclusion they will have to kill at least 80 of the hippos to keep the population from going, you
Well,
know,
yeah, they weren't supposed to be there.
parabolic. And they weren't supposed to be there. But I mean, this is the classic, right? Rabbits in Australia, kudzu in the south.
Yeah,
Like you bring
invasive
it,
species. Yeah.
yeah, certain, I think, mollusks in the Great Lakes. I mean, these things they get some headway, Europeans in the Americas. I mean, they find a little path and they're all over the place. So, but anyhow, I just love the phrase cocaine hippos. And so I wanted to talk about cocaine hippos for the sake of talking about cocaine hippos. There you go. That's my discovery of the week.
But
Okay.
you didn't mention that the punchline is you got to spay and neuter your pets, even if they're
Yes,
hippos.
right. According to Bob Barker, please spay and neuter your pets, especially if they are hippos.
Great.
All right,
So,
Michael, what's yours?
mine. Okay. So I discovered that Oxford University Press has just come out with a new translation of what I think is one of the great novels of the past 100 years, Dr. Faustus by Thomas Mann. This is only the third translation that there's been. And it's a great novel for today, I think, because it talks about how how Germany after the Weimar Republic became what it became, and it makes a lot of parallels between the cultural, intellectual world of society and how that can reflect what's happening politically. And it talks a lot about music as well, and the other arts. But there are interesting parallels, I think, with the technology that we're dealing with today, as well as the nature of higher education. So one of the factors that leads the protagonist to, in one sense or another, sell his soul, is to avoid being doomed to parody. So he's a music composer, and he feels that all he can do is create parodies of what already exists. And so his deal with the devil pushes him through to something different.
Mhm.
Um, and I've been thinking that in a way, you could look at the prose, at least, that LLMs produce as fundamentally not a form of intelligence, but a form of kind of unintentional automated parody
Hmm.
of all kinds of other texts. Because I mean, parody is intentionally supposed to be a little humorous or you know cute
Right,
in some way, but
right.
that isn't what we have. But I also think a lot of research itself has become so templatized um, and and generated by so many concerns other than discovery that it's almost parodistic of an idea of research. And I think you mentioned some of the stings earlier,
Hmm.
Ken.
Mhm.
Right.
I think that really brought home that that nature. So I think it's a great novel. In the spirit
Awesome.
of summer reading, Dr. Faustus.
Excellent.
All right, Joy, what's yours?
Well, mine is,
You've got Dr. Faustus or Cocaine Hippos to compete with here, so.
you know what? I think I'm somewhere in between.
Oh,
So,
nice.
my discovery of the week is at Coachella, the biggest sponsor was Liquid IV,
Oh,
which
yeah, yeah,
makes
yeah.
those little
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 packets.
packets of things, and they it was everywhere, and it just reminded me of like Crystal Light, like like you
Yeah,
put
but
some
they have to
powder.
medicalize it a little bit, right?
Yeah, they medicalize it by calling it Liquid IV. But according to Samantha Colicchio, who's the Liquid IV brand storyteller,
Mm.
who encouraged everyone at Coachella to enjoy and stay safe, they released some new flavor combinations, and the branding is amazing. So these are little packets of powder that you put in your water, but
Hmm.
you can identify as the artiste, the prophet, the campground mom, the FOMO captain, the selfie queen, the veteran, the drifter, or the best person ever.
Oh, God.
And so that was what was
It
flying off
doesn't
the
tell you what the
shelves.
flavor really is. It's more about your personal
It's
identity.
more about your personality, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you identify with your hydration?
I was so Liquid IV is great, right? Because that's what it's called, right? Liquid IV.
Yeah, it's it's
Yeah.
it's
So
neither
I like
liquid
the other,
nor is it an IV. It is a powder that you put in water to make it
right?
taste
Because
better.
isn't there another one called Liquid Death?
Oh, Liquid Death is just water that's been rebranded
Yeah,
to
but I
make
think
it look,
I think they have packets too,
oh,
actually.
maybe. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I don't know. I'll have to go. A lot of liquids out there.
It's basically Kool-Aid for today
But you
that
don't want
is
it to be cherry. You want
branded.
to be FOMO captain.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you drinking? Veteran. That's
But I
amazing.
love it that the branding that it's healthful as opposed to just fun is now the new thing. So
Yeah.
just have fun with your whatever beverage you're drinking, you know.
Right.
All right, Michael. Thank you so much for guest hosting and
Yes.
spending
Thank you.
your afternoon with us to talk about us. We really appreciate it.
It was an honor. Thank you.
And I hope people learn some things about us that they did want to learn, maybe some things that they didn't. But anyway, thank you, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to our friends at Provoke the Truth for the music. If you have topics you want us to cover, please email us as ever at disruptedscience@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. You can also keep up with developments at the Geyser, where you can subscribe to support our efforts. Thanks again, Michael. And thank you all for listening. See you
Thanks,
later.
everybody.